Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Yalial, and I am here today to talk about the energies of the next week from November 3rd until November 9th. This week is very charged. We have transpersonal planets very active, and that in the individual, both individual and collective level, has important manifestations. Beyond this, everything that is occurring happens in the context of the full moon in Taurus. That I remind you that these abrupt changes regarding the weather, as the hurricane that impacted Cuba and Jamaica, are synchronic with this lunation and with the energy of the return to Uranus to Taurus. We could feel it days before, even if Uranus is still in Gemini. So our physical body can also feel that, because it involves the plane of the matter that is linked with Taurus. Also changes in the economic level, how we are managing our individual resources, and beyond how we are perceiving the situations in the present. These days are inviting us to see the purpose in every circumstance and to observe them with this resolutive mind, to open ourselves to new ideas or forms of comprehending reality. So we are beginning with November 4th, with Mars in Scorpio perfecting the trine with Neptune retrograde in Pisces. This contact, Mars and Neptune, could represent taking inspired action. I mean, approaching a situation from this deep inner listening. Could also be surrendering to certain experiences, not from resignation, but in this surrendering to what life is proposing to us, to move forward in inner peace, knowing that moving forward to this path, it is what actually, surrendering. I'm trying to find another word, but I am not getting right now. But this surrendering is which actually approaches us to the desires of the soul, even if we don't know completely the how. This transit is very good to channel emotions, what is happening inside, through certain projects or creative ways, could also be artistical ones. And this is the last aspect that Mars is doing, because later that day enters in Sagittarius, that 11/4, in this opposition with Uranus retrograde in Gemini. And because it is entering in a sign of water and in a opposition with Uranus, we could experiment this as an acceleration. Mars is the planet of action, and here assumes this will of exploration, of moving forward beyond what we know. There is a determination, especially when that is moved by a purpose that leads us to connect with enthusiasm, the will of learning, of experimenting. There is focus in horizons and visions of expansion with optimism. And this is also the development, the permanent development of the inner master that emerges from acquiring knowledge and to applying that to action. From that place we connect with wisdom. So, as every aspect has its shadows, and this could be an excess of confidence, which is not confidence actually. It is more like distorting our own boundaries, not recognizing them, wanting to embrace more than what we really can at this moment, or believing that we know everything about the situation or something. And these kind of visions could also make us taking action from ideals associated to beliefs or perspectives that are fanatist, that are representing fanatism, and not really a vision of expansion. It is more wanting to impose our own vision, and many times in a very aggressive way, to others. This is a shadow quality of Mars. But in this encounter with Uranus retrograde in Gemini, in some way, this could be this crash with a different form of reality, with having to see things in another way and doing them in another way. And the understanding that the mastery requires also recognizing a learner, an apprentice at the same time, in both absolutisms as mental dispersion in thousands of ideas that actually are not having a purpose, are aspects of the identity that are creating barriers to feel ourselves in freedom. And I am not talking about the freedom as an state in the matter only. It is this inner freedom first. So also this contact, Mars, Uranus in general, are calling us to be very present in what we are doing, because they are synchronical with accidents, fallings, these kind of things, which are not accidental. Actually, they are also operating as a synchronicity of the cosmos. And beyond opening ourselves to these different perspectives to move forward in the path, it is also a key to observe impulsive decisions that are not emerging actually from a purpose. It is more about wanting to free ourselves from something quickly to save ourselves the learning, which is perhaps not the best decision, or from this rebelliousness that comes from immaturity. But also from deviations with struct light. This could also be traduced as having accumulated many things that weren't expressed during the transit in Scorpio and exploding. So in the collective level, this could be linked with manifestations, disconformity, and in its lower aspect, it could turn into violence. But Mars is also making this sextile with Pluto in Aquarius, which is an opportunity to take action. I mean, to regulate what is happening inside regarding what is happening outside, and to make pauses, to breathe, and to seek forms of transforming situations instead of resisting the changes that are presenting. So on November 5th, we have the full moon in Taurus in the degree 13. I've already talked about this, so you have the video already there with all the aspects explained. I'm going to continue. On November 6th, Mars in Sagittarius perfects the sextile with Pluto in Aquarius, and we have another important aspect, which is Venus entering Scorpio, because it does so in a square with Pluto in Aquarius, which is perfected on November 8th. So Venus in Scorpio leads us to investigate, to deepen in our desires and in the dynamics that we are sustaining in our relationships. It is about going to the roots of the things in which we have fixed our focus, to observe what is impulsing us to those experiences, and to go through layers of attachments, of fears that may tend to produce obsessions, and being able to reveal light behind that, to use the intensity, which is a quality of a Scorpio, to create a space, energetical field, and frequency for what our soul truly desires. And with this square with Pluto, if there is not will of doing this labor, it could activate a lot of resistance. I'm going to be honest, because there is a death, could be a symbolic one, or the end of something literal that we have to go through, and those situations could reactivate painful experiences, remove trauma, fear of losing, possessivity, resentment, control, so we can face all of those things and let go. Because if there is attachment, the more attachment that we are generating, the more discomfort that we are going to experiment with this transit. I mean, the attachment to the forms that are limiting the freedom of the soul, because Pluto is in Aquarius. Aquarius is a sign ruled by Uranus, is intensifying the conflict, the inner conflict. And freedom, it is not about doing whatever thing our conditioned mind wants. Freedom in this case is giving ourselves the permission to purify and to move forward in a lighter way. So on 11/7th, the Sun in Scorpio perfects the trine with the North Node in Pisces, the Karma nodes, and the South Node in Virgo. This is part of the full moon. I explained this transit there, but relating this with the previous transit that I was talking about, this could be this inner illumination and therefore recognition of what now represents evolution in our lives and what is actually repeating a pattern. That same day, I keep saying 11, November 7th, Uranus retrograde returns to Taurus. So this is a great event. I'm going to expand on this transit later, of course. Uranus is going to stay there until April 2026, and we are invited to make an integration of the last 7 years. And with the contacts that it is going to have in the future, it is about ending up breaking with limited structures, awakening to our coded resources, to see the body also as a technological tool. I am referring that the sensations, the manifestations that we feel in the body, they can offer a guidance. And also there are capacities that you could awaken during these contacts that in other times were considered as science fiction, I don't know, as healing with the hands. transmitting energy, considering that the entire universe is energy, it is not something that we are seeing right now as fictional or far away from science, or from what science is now proving these days, that many things are very related to topics that in spirituality have been spoken a lot. So creative ideas that contribute with others, they are not even ours. I am referring to the subject or the identity. They are downloads of light of higher dimensions. And therefore, if our vessels are receiving them, we have to put them in practice. What happens many times with Uranus, it is that to put those ideas in practice, we have to transcend a mental conditioning, perhaps related with our value, talking about Taurus, or what society gives value to, or the attachment to a situation in which we have settled too much to the point where things have stagnated. Okay, the last transit that I'm going to talk about today is on November 9th, and is the retrogradation of Mercury. Mercury starts to move forward in this illusory perspective in the degree 6 with 51 minutes of Sagittarius until November 29th. I wanted to remind you that there is a revision in here from what has been happening from October 21st until that moment, November 9th. And when Mercury starts the retrogradation, actually it spends certain days in a stationary state, motion, and there is where the manifestations associated to Mercury retrograde are presenting, like the problems with the transports, the traveling, the communication, the misunderstandings, the problems with technology. But I am not seeing that as Mercury retrograde doing anything to us. I am not seeing any planet doing anything to us, but as circumstances that are inviting us to review where we are expanding our vision, in this case, talking about Sagittarius, how much purpose have those things that we are putting our focus, how we are communicating with others, how much attention we are putting to what others are communicating. In general, astrologers recommended not making great investments in technology or signing contracts or important decisions. I think this is relative. If you have been reevaluating these things with anticipation, and we are approaching that with much attention, especially if we feel that that is aligned to our inner self, it is good to do it. But if there are things that you don't have clarity or certainty, or it is not like an urgency, I don't know if I'm inventing that word, I think I am not, is a recommendation to wait until the end of December or 2026. But in many cases, you are going to notice that projects, answers, situations are going to be stopped. And instead of experimenting that with resistance, we can remind ourselves that this transit is to acquire a new perspective of those situations, another level of clarity. I actually love the retrogradation of Mercury. So I'm going to close this video here today. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.